if our moral values are declining, and even if the general sense of self-confidence in the country is failing, and even if, as 2/3 of us tell pollsters, people believe that their children and grandchildren will not live as well or as prosperous a life as they did growing up. The first American generation to ever think that is living right now. The biggest single change I've had in addressing audiences over my career is this. 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, if I were talking to an audience, by 2 or 3 to 1, they would say, we believe our children and grandchildren will live better, more prosperous lives than we do. Those numbers are reversed now. So those are the anywheres. They're the ones in charge, or at least of most of the commanding heights, and certainly places like Manhattan and Washington, D.C., and San Francisco and Hollywood that we mentioned. Then there's the somewheres. Now the somewheres are between 50 and 60% of the population. You'll notice if you add the two of the groups together, they don't equal 100. That's because there's some people in transition or haven't made up their mind or are tuned out. But the somewheres are different from the anywheres. They're more rural than they are urban. They're more religious than they are secular. They're more patriotic in the old-fashioned sense of the word. They believe in local institutions rather than multinational institutions like the World Bank or the IMF or the UN. They believe in America first, and even believe in making America great again, which is why they voted for Donald Trump. And they're very suspicious of entrenched interests in power. And many of them, because they tend to be less wealthy and sometimes less educated than the anywheres, many of them believe that life has left them behind and that their opinion doesn't count for much. They don't live on the coasts very much. They're not so much East Coasters or West Coasters. They live in the middle of the country. And you know that that was much of the discontent of the 2016 election. And they believe that the anywheres either think they're invisible or they disparage them and make fun of them. And that basically the anywheres message to the somewheres is, sit down and shut up because we know better. So throughout the Western democracies, this conflict has been building for a long time, and it came into sharp focus and relief in the United States in 2016. Now, one of the other things that we've learned from the last election, the midterm election in November, is that there's a backlash. You know, what is it they say in Star Wars? The Empire Strikes Back? Yeah, they sure did. Identity politics, which is basically the reigning ideology of the Democratic Party. Your politics are dictated by how you were born. If you're a certain skin tone, if you're a certain income level, if you're a certain attitude, if you're a certain lifestyle, if you're a certain orientation, that will dictate your politics. And just like some somewheres are mired in the past, they're not very imaginative, and sometimes they don't think about new things. That certainly is true. Sometimes anywheres are very prejudicial. They can't imagine that someone would ever disagree with them. They can't imagine that anyone would have a different point of view. And if they do, they're bad people. Bad people. I'm sure you've encountered some of them on the Upper West Side. Not the bad people, the people who think you're right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, identity politics is probably going to be the single most important thing that dictates who the Democratic presidential candidate is going to be. And if that's the case, I'll make you my prediction right now. One of the things we've learned about the Democratic Party as it was taken over by identity politics is that people like Joe Biden, yesterday's man, should have run in 2016, was blackmailed into not running by Hillary Clinton and her thugs and her flying monkeys. You remember the flying monkeys? Oh, yeah. He's yesterday's man. Even Bernie Sanders is yesterday's man. After all, his campaign was rife now with sexual harassers, we learned. Who would have thought that? But the Me Too movement has caught up with Bernie Sanders. So, what's the Democratic Party today? The people who vote in the primaries, over 60% of them are women. And they're women who, no, they don't categorically vote for just women because they're women, but they're heavily influenced by the feminist movement, and they probably are going to vote for a woman. That's one of the reasons why Elizabeth Warren, despite the fact that she's the personality of the pickle, was running. And of course, between 30 and 35% of the Democratic primary vote will be cast by minorities, which often can vote as a bloc. And California is the biggest state. 26% of the delegates necessary to win a majority of the delegates on the convention floor for the Democratic nomination are from California. If you win California, you win California's delegates, you're a quarter of the way to getting the nomination. So for that reason, I think the Democratic nominee is going to be Senator Kamala Harris.
Oh, dear God.
Is that good or bad?
That sounds right.
Willie Brown's mistress.
Do you want to run against her or not? Oh, okay, so it's good bad. I know Kamala Harris. I'm from California. She's tough. Willie Brown's
Mistress.
I didn't say that.
I
Someone here from California?
did. No, I'm a New Yorker.
You're just well informed. I don't know what, but you're just well informed.
She walked into his 60th birthday party knowing his wife, and he was very married, and children would be there. She was 27, he was 60, and she waltzed in on his arm at a very public birthday party.
Well, San Francisco's an open city.
Yeah.
Open, yeah.
I grew up there. One of the reasons I became a conservative is I used to, when I was 13 or 14 years old, our form of Saturday night entertainment when we were in junior high school was to go take the BART train, which is our version of the subway, go to Berkeley and watch adults being stupid. And it was very easy to watch adults being stupid back then. This was the mid to late 70s. And I tell you, when you watch adults being stupid, you don't want to do it yourself. I've done a clean life because of that. So growing up in San Francisco was great for me. Scared straight.
It's great.
Kamala Harris is very well connected politically, as our astute observer indicates. You could walk through her deepest thoughts, though, and not get your ankles wet. But she follows orders very well. And she is a pure, hardcore leftist. Left wing. And that's probably what you need if you're going to beat the Democrats in 2016. Because look, we're family here, and I think some tough talk is necessary. I'm here not just to tell you what you want to hear, I'm here to tell you what I believe is the case and what the facts are. We're in some trouble politically. And if you thought the 2018 election was a success, well,
No.
Sometimes Donald Trump shades the truth, and sometimes he sees things that other people don't. And when he said it was a roaring success, I think he was seeing things that other people didn't. It was a disaster. It was a complete and utter disaster. You know how bad it was in New York City. For the first time since the formation of the Republican Party in 1856, there's no Republican representing any part of New York City.
Wow.
For the first time in my living memory, there is not a single Republican representing any part of Orange County, California. Not even gave birth to Reagan conservatism.
Yeah, that was the ballot.
Now, there were bright spots. I'm not going to pretend that they weren't, but they were few and far between, and in places that you'd expect that things would be brighter. Now, what was responsible for this? Especially since